WandaVision, Season 1, Episode 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Marvel Plus, the podcast devoted solely to the Disney Plus Marvel series. My name is Brett Scott. I am your host, and this is the show. First things first. Wow. I have no idea where this series is going. And honestly, I don't even care. It's that damn good. They've done this retro sitcom thing so well. So spot on. I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch these type of shows like with my mom, right? No, not First Run. I'm not that old, but we watched them on Nick at Night. And we watched these series like Donna Reed and Bewitched, Mary Tyler Moore, Dick Van Dyke. And this felt like that. They absolutely nailed it. And not only that, it didn't just feel authentic. It wasn't just chock full of classic TV tropes and overacting. It was somehow legitimately funny as well. It was so much fun to watch. Like, I'm in awe of this series, and it's only episode 1. Speaking of it only being episode 1, Disney Plus dropped 2 episodes at once to kick this thing off. And I thought about reviewing them both in one big-ass debut episode, but I decided against it. Just, for the future continuity of this podcast, I want every episode of all these series to have their own separate review episode. Also, I didn't want to skip over anything and potentially not give each episode the attention it deserves. Like, what if something amazing happens in episode 2 that completely overshadows the events in this episode, and then I end up, skimming through it or rushing through it to get to more exciting details from episode 2. As of this recording, I haven't even started episode 2. I want to put all the focus on this one episode. So, let's get into it. But first, if you're new here and you haven't figured out, what this is, let me tell you what this podcast is all about. Marvel Plus is meant to be a companion podcast for all the MCU-connected Disney Plus Marvel series. Each week, I, or a guest host and I, will dig into the latest episode and share our take on what went down. If that sounds like something you can get down with, please favorite or follow the podcast so you can get each new episode as soon as it drops. Also, if you have any questions or comments to add to the conversation, please hit me up on Twitter or Instagram at RealBrettScott, or email the show directly at marvelpluspodcast@gmail.com. All right, now that we've gotten the spiel out of the way, let's get into WandaVision Episode 1, which, to my surprise, is actually just titled Episode 1. I was sure that these series were, would have unique episode titles, but no. At least not for WandaVision, they don't. Now, let's get into it. So, the Disney Plus description for this episode goes like this. Wanda and Vision struggle to conceal their powers during dinner with Vision's boss and his wife. And that's basically what we get. It's a perfect classic sitcom storyline that they literally could have pulled from just about any series from that era. The episode, it's fully black and white until the very end, which we'll get to when we get to. But, with the set, the makeup, wardrobe, and the props, they pull this off in glorious fashion. It feels extremely authentic. With the exception of when Vision is in android form, it feels like it really belongs in the era of TV that it's portraying, which I'm guessing is the 50s, possibly into the early 60s, but we'll go with the 50s. Right off the bat, both lead actors are ridiculously charming. I'll be honest, before starting this series, I was never a big Vision fan. I'm very interested in Wanda because of how important and powerful I think she's about to become. Um, she's a big part of some of my favorite comic storylines, and I have a feeling some of those storylines, or some very similar stories, are about to play out in some fashion in the MCU. But Vision, never a favorite for me. However, in this, he's truly awesome. I have a feeling, you know, I'm going to become a full-on Vision fan by the end of the series, or at least a Paul Bettany fan. So the episode starts off with the loving, quirky couple trying to figure out what the special occasion marked on the calendar is supposed to be. An anniversary, a birthday, they have no idea, and neither want to let on that they've forgotten the significance of the day. Now, this is more classic sitcom stuff, and the way it's delivered is genuinely funny. I find myself actually laughing out loud several times throughout this episode. So they go their separate ways to live out their day as a classic 1950s married couple. Vision off to work in an office that doesn't seem to actually produce any real product or provide any service whatsoever. And Wanda stays home to tend to the house and, I don't know, do housewife stuff. They don't have any kids yet, so I'm just assuming she's keeping the house. So while at work, Vision is agonizing over the mysterious date on the calendar, trying to figure out what the special occasion could possibly be. Wanda, with the help of a neighbor friend, she's doing the same thing. Well, Wanda's neighbor suggests that it must be their anniversary, and Wanda agrees. She begins planning a romantic evening for when Vision arrives home. While at work, Vision figures it out. He has a double dinner date planned at his house with his boss and boss's wife. And he really wants to impress his boss. And now he's panicking because he's completely unprepared. When he phones home, he's still of the belief that Wanda already knows. And she says, everything is set and under control. It'll be a perfect evening and he has nothing to worry about. Of course, this turns out hilarious when Vision arrives home with his boss and boss's wife, played wonderfully, by the way, by Deborah Jo Rupp, the mom from That 70s Show, and like a million other things, but most people probably know her best as Mrs. Foreman, Eric Foreman's mom, Red Foreman's wife. Anyway, I love her. She's as charming as ever in this, and so Vision and the couple arrive, and Wanda has a romantic evening planned with scantily clad clothing and all. It's a pretty hilarious encounter, and of course, Wanda is embarrassed, to say the least. After conferring with Vision, she's in a panic as well. She's supposed to have an impressive dinner prepared, and they don't even have ingredients in the house because Vision doesn't eat. A hilarious joke from earlier in the episode that it's come back around full circle and become a major part of the current predicament. So, Wanda calls her neighbor who brings all the ingredients she will need, and more hilarity ensues as Wanda attempts to bewitch a 5-star dinner for 4. It's a disaster, but it's fantastic to watch. The effects, they really look like the practical effects from Bewitched. The ingredients and dishes are floating around the kitchen, looking very much like they're on wires. I love it. Somehow she eventually pulls it all together and ends up serving breakfast for dinner. Can I just say, I love breakfast for dinner. Like eggs, bacon, pancakes, biscuits and gravy. Biscuits and gravy. Oh my God, look. Is that a thing where you're from, biscuits and gravy? Biscuits and gravy it may just be a regional thing, like a Southern or Midwest United States thing. I don't know, but I think it's my all-time favorite breakfast. If you never tried biscuits and gravy, first of all, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, you haven't been living life to its full potential, and that's sad to me. But now you can change that. Go give it a try. It's literally one of the best concoctions ever thrown together for consumption. unless there's something wrong with your brain or taste buds, you're going to thank me. I digress. The couples are enjoying their dinner when a seemingly simple question turns the conversation and the episode on its head. How did Wanda and Vision meet? What's their story? Neither of them seem able to recall how their current relationship came to be. They're stumped. Wanda becomes so disturbed by the question that she seems to use her powers, either on purpose or by accident, it's hard to tell, to send Vision's boss into like this choking fit. His wife goes into this weird, glitchy, repetitive laughing fit, and suddenly Wanda, like, she seems to break character for a second and, tells Vision, like, help him, to help the choking man. Reality coming apart, a little bit here. I don't know what's going on exactly, but it seems like this little illusion is breaking down, this TV sitcom illusion. And this is the first, real look at something weird and a little dark that we get in this series, and it's great. So Vision, completely breaking character now, reaches through the man's esophagus and pulls the obstruction out, saving the man's life. In the end, the distraction completely, changes the flow of the evening, changes the subject, and the couples part ways, and Vision and Wanda are left very confused. Where are they? How did they get here? Who are they? It's as if they can't even remember their past at all. But none of this is spoken. Like, they're not saying this out loud. It's only inferred by, like, the looks on their faces. But it's clear. They are utterly confused. So the sitcom episode ends, and the picture zooms out further and further until we see the entire black and white show, quote unquote show, was being observed on a small monitor by some unknown guy sitting in an observation room surrounded by random computers and tech. And on one of the screens, I didn't catch this the first time, but I saw someone else's review and they were talking about it, right? Little Easter eggs. On one of the screens, there's a very small symbol that, after a little digging, like I said, I found out it's a symbol for SWORD, SWORD, which is a government agency related to SHIELD. And in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the acronym SWORD stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. So it seems, if we read into that Wanda has been abducted or is at least being closely monitored somehow by SWORD. At least I don't know. At least the inner workings of her mind are being monitored. I don't know. I don't know if this is a real place or if this is all taking place in her mind. She could literally be strapped to a table somewhere, unconscious at this point. Who knows? Okay. So, a lot of questions, obviously. Like I said before, even if this was literally just a real period sitcom set in the 1950s, starring Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen, I would have enjoyed it very much. And knowing, though, that it's so much more than that, like, I already love this series. Something else that I love about the series is the genre listing. So if you look at the genre underneath the description of the episode, it's listed as romance, mystery, drama, science fiction, and superhero. How awesome is that? That it fits into so many genres. I'm not sure I've ever watched a series or a film or anything with that much variety in the genre description. Anyway, I can't wait to dive into episode 2, which I plan on doing as soon as I switch off this mic. But before we wrap up, let's speculate a little further. Okay, so going in, I assume that this would all be taking place in Wanda's mind, which is probably the case. I mean, Vision died in Endgame, after all. I'm assuming that hasn't changed. But now, I'm not 100% sure. Is it in her mind and someone is monitoring her illusion? Or maybe she's in a simulation of sorts, being manipulated by someone else, i.e. SWORD, or maybe some other nefarious character. I don't know. Like, I still lean towards her being in some sort of control here. And someone else is observing. But the fact that she seems just as confused as Vision, it makes me question that theory. Like, who the hell is watching this unfold? How are they watching it? Is it all in her mind? Is it a simulation? I saw some speculation online, a theory that the neighbor, the nosy neighbor Agnes, might actually be a character named Agatha from the comic books, who I don't know much about, but, you know, I'll get into this a little more in the episode 2 review with my friend Justin. So a ton of questions, right, that will hopefully begin to be answered in WandaVision episode 2. Look, I have no idea where this ride is going, but I'm beyond happy to be on board. I think, ironically, even though it is playing on all these classic TV shows, it's still super unique in what it's doing. You know, I've never seen anything like it. And that's crazy. Like I said, it's playing all these classic things, but it's still something I've never seen before, in a way. So far, I'm in love. All right, ladies and gents, that is going to do it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, as I said before, please favorite or follow the podcast. Also, if you'd like to see the podcast grow and help it to reach a larger audience, the best thing you can do is share the episodes on social media. You can also drop a 5-star review on your podcast app of choice if you're so inclined. That also helps us to reach more ear holes. Please also check out the second episode, which is already available right now. Episode 2 will likely be quite a bit longer, as we'll have, more details to go over and hopefully some new revelations. But in addition, Marvel Plus Episode 2 will likely have a much different feel. Way less scripted and far more banter. I'm having my good friend Justin Logan on to help me dig into the details of Episode 2. So if you found this episode a little bland or boring, I hope not, but on the off chance that you did, be sure and check out Episode 2 before you give up on it completely. I plan to do some episodes solo, but most of the time, I plan to share the mic with a wide variety of guest hosts and showcase a slew of different perspectives. Listen, I know there are a ton of Marvel podcasts out there, so I really appreciate you giving this one a shot. So, once again, thank you for listening. My name is Brett Scott, and this has been Marvel Plus.